Greetings and salutations, YouTube. Itakiri Mike here, bringing you the next episode in our Let's Play Kerbal Space program. So, as you can see, this is going to be a Duna probe. Got a kind of high here with these struts, but I don't think that should be a big deal. This is our launch stage, standard asparagus. I'm really hoping that it actually does get us into orbit. I'm relatively sure it will. It's worked for me in the past, so I keep on using it. So we have our regular stage, and I have like the nuclear engine on that, because I think it's got better fuel efficiency. I don't need to kind of take up as much fuel as I would with another engine. So I've only got like a 400 and a 200, so 600 units of fuel. I have an array of communication dishes there. I got solar panels. And then up here I have like 4 separate probes that I can disconnect from the main probe itself. And I'm kind of hoping with at least one of these guys here, it's if I have a chance encounter with Duna's moon Ike, I want to release this probe. I'm hoping that with this fuel and rocket setup that I'll have enough thrust to be able to get captured by Ike, but we'll see what happens. This last probe here is just kind of like just a way to bring symmetry to the rocket, otherwise it would be too heavy on one side. So I have scientific instruments on the other 2 probes. Well, actually, I guess I have the communications antennas on these guys. So we'll see what happens. Maybe this will be like an intermediate communication satellite between the Duna ones and the Ike one. So I have the scientific instruments here, like a barometer. And I actually have the accelerometer there, but what I want is the gravity detector. So I made a boo-boo there. I'm gonna fix that up. And there we go. So now I want to be able to measure the gravity of Duna, and I want to measure the atmosphere as I crash a probe onto the planet itself. So, got that saved, and I'm gonna put her on the launch pad at some point. I don't know, I think it's a nice looking rocket. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to be really high on the launch tower itself. I don't think those regular fuel tanks around it are going to cause any issues with maybe winglets being ripped off by the control tower itself. So I put it on the pad, and what I need to do is I need to select one of my communication satellites because they're far enough outside, or orbiting far enough that allows me to do the max time acceleration. Because as a great person on the internet put up in the forum post, I need about a pizza slice between Kerbal and Duna for when I make my burn towards Duna. That gives me the best chance of getting caught in Duna's sphere of influence without burning a whole lot extra. So, same thing as last time. I'm time accelerating the video in post-production here, because I mean everyone's seen the launch profile itself. It's the one that works for me. I think Scott Manley recently did a video where he was critiquing people for saying, wait till 20 kilometers before you make your gravity turn, or, do your gravity turn at 5. And he said, no, these are the numbers. This is why you do it at 10. So, I'm maybe anxiously, I guess it is. I'm not sure if it's really anxiety related, but I'm really trying to perfect my launch profile. I mean, on the off chance that Scott were to see this, it's not likely, but I'd rather not be ripped apart by him, mathematically speaking. So, just getting myself into that stable orbit. Quick burst of some RCS to get me actually turning, because that huge fuel tank makes it almost impossible to turn otherwise. And we're in, a stable orbit. I don't really need to perfect it. Like, this is just an orbit so I don't fall back onto the surface. So that I can make my burn towards Duna. So, just tweaking. Yeah, this is kind of, where my inexperience shows. I'm like trying to figure out where in my orbit around Kerbal am I supposed to do the burn itself. So I'm doing a lot of tweaking here. I'm probably burning out a little bit too much there, but I notice that my periaps, my Kerbal periaps, is way too low. I'm going to enter the atmosphere. The atmospheric drag, or air braking, atmosphere braking, is going to kill my apoaps. So I have to make sure that I don't enter the atmosphere. And once again, tweaking where to burn on the planet, like on the orbit itself. And I find a sweet spot, but it's really hard for me to get. So I decide to kind of tweak it that way. By messing with the retrograde. So once again, using RCS and double checking how much RCS fuel's left to get me on to that blue marker, which is my maneuver node. And time accelerating to it. So I still actually have some fuel left in this massive tank. So, I mean, I might as well use it to assist me with my burn towards Duna. I mean, why waste the fuel? So I disengage the tank, and when I start up my nuclear engine, it kind of gets squirrely on me, gets away, but I managed to get it back. Notice there that I was burning at max thrust, and I started to see the overheating start to kick in. You have to be very careful with the nuclear engine, because once it starts overheating, it goes quickly. And I mean, the engine itself will explode, and it'll just totally ruin your mission. So here I kind of overshoot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a maneuver node to find out what I have to do to get to get a Duna encounter. So I have to do a retrograde burn, so I aim to the retrograde, and I'm just gonna kind of eyeball this here from the map view until I can get a Duna encounter. So we're closing in towards Duna. It should be any second now. We'll be in Duna. There we go. Duna's sphere of influence right there. So all that's going to happen is, well, I guess I'm so paranoid about losing power. So I set up a node there just to let me know when I have to perform or like be worried about performing the next sort of burn. And I'm just kind of cinematically allowing Kerbal to fall away from us. And I'm going to do a cut up here. So I'm kind of burning retrograde so that I can kind of have a Duna orbit. I don't know. I'm actually pretty impressed with this mission. It was almost a complete success. Those little probes that I attached, I had no idea how much delta V they had, but I was really surprised. And actually, you see right there, we have a Duna encounter, and the trajectory that we're on actually gives us our chance Ike encounter. So we got very, very lucky. So obviously I'm going to exploit that luck. But I'm just kind of fine-tuning, trying to pull that periapse down. Just having a little trouble finding the planet, because it'd be nice to get it in video here, us falling towards the planet Duna and its partner in crime, Ike. So, going to disconnect my first probe. This is going to be the probe that I will hopefully be able to get into orbit around Ike. So I have a satellite orbiting Ike. So I'm just pulling away from the main probe itself. Activated the engine, and I was very surprised with how much thrust that little probe had. So with the main guy, I'm just sort of going to be doing my burn to make sure that I get captured by Duna itself. As like you've seen from before, like in the map view before, I was going to pass Duna, get an encounter with Ike, and then be like thrown out back into space. So I don't want that to happen. I'm always unsure how much thrust the nuclear engine has, so I start my burn very early and sort of a very low thrust, but it seems to work out. So I'm just waiting for the periaps to get somewhere's where I want it to be. I think it's around the 250 mark. Yeah. Okay, so now I gotta switch over to my Ike probe. And I have quite a bit of delta V that I've got to expel with very little fuel. And as you can see, it's just dropping down there. And I'm like 63 meters per second delta V away from performing that maneuver, which would give me an orbit around Ike. So when I switch, it says that I'm in orbit around it, but I think that's just a glitch with the game, I guess, because you'll see later on that it's actually a Duna orbit. So disconnecting the next probe and just pulling away from it with my RCS. So this is going to be the in-between satellite for like backup communications, and I'm just kind of, I don't know, I'm just really messing around with the orbit, I suppose. I don't really have any sort of big plans for this guy, except for kind of to be backup communication satellite. So I just put it on a random orbit. Yeah, I'm not sure how much delta V these guys have, but like I said, I was actually just really impressed with the amount that they did have. Like, unfortunately, it was 63 meters per second less than what I needed, but I don't know, it kind of worked out. So I'm trying to get an orbit closer to the equator with the main probe itself. So I managed to get, a pretty circular orbit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to disconnect the probe that is going to crash onto the surface of Duna. And something almost catastrophic happens here. I'm finding it difficult to get my bearings, and I almost lose my my solar panel. So I'm just activating everything. So I'm thinking at this point, maybe what I can do is I'll, try to get as low an orbit as possible. Get the periaps down, hopefully into the atmosphere, as at this point I'm not sure how much atmosphere is on Duna, so I want to use what atmosphere there is to get some atmospheric braking, so I don't have to use as much of the propellant or the fuel on this tiny little probe. So there, I got it. I think it's around 8 for the periaps. I make this quick sort of choice. Maybe I should like release the probe, the gravity detector probe, and then I think no, I'll just follow this guy down. So I go as far as I can under acceleration, and 65, we're into the 50s, we're still in the vacuum. We're 40 kilometers up, and it still says we're in a vacuum. So Duna seems to have a very I'm not sure if I should say thin, but I mean the atmosphere is it doesn't extend very far out from the surface of the planet, it seems. Um, Especially when we're considering it in regards to Kerbin. So just kind of trying to wait here until it shows us. So 21, 22 kilometers around there is when we first start detecting atmosphere with the barometer, and we get a nice view of Ike over the horizon, rising over the horizon. I see this lighting with the atmosphere, and I'm thinking maybe we're going to get a sunrise as well, but yeah, the sun's right above us. So as you can see, the orbit is being changed greatly from our atmospheric braking, even though it is like the atmosphere itself is very small or thin. So I think we're like as we go farther and farther down, the atmosphere gets a little thicker. I mean, it is so thin in comparison to the atmosphere in Kerbin. And I really like the lighting they have there. I mean, with Ike. So we're above 10%, and I think it's at 17% when we finally crash into the planet for the barometer. So 0.17 whatever after that for the reading on the barometer. So I go back to the main probe. I disconnect our gravity detector probe, and I just pull away with RCS. I do a little space ballet here as I take the long way around to orientating to the north on the nav ball, as that gives us the least amount of rolling. Like, I think we always are orientated towards the north. So, because I'm using docking ports, actually I just realized what I can be doing is maybe at some point I can launch up a fuel canister, maybe dock with that probe that's supposed to go to Ike. If I have enough fuel, I could use like sort of a main engine, like a nuclear engine, to like try to get captured by Ike. Maybe I can do that in another episode, like try to survive the try to save the probe rather. So I'm just kind of trying to set this guy up on a very elongated elliptical orbit. Pretty low periaps, pretty high apoaps, so that I can get a good difference in the gravity readings, like to find out how large the gravity well is for Duna. So just making the final burn, and there we are. We have our setup. This is our poor dead probe, unless we can save it in another mission. It's probably doomed to be shot off into space by Ike's gravity. But yeah, we have our setup there. We have the gravity detector. We were able to crash a probe with a barometer onto the surface to give us a reading on how much atmosphere it is. So we might actually be able to use some chutes and thrust to reduce our speed, and maybe we can get a successful landing on the surface of Duna. But yeah, so if you enjoyed what you've seen, please like and favorite the video. If you enjoy the content on my channel, please subscribe, and I hope to see you in the near future.